Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. This is our first live episode of Dynasty After Dark, so thank you guys for joining us here tonight. We're gonna get it worked out. There's still a few kinks in the system. We got to get a thumbnail for it. That we're gonna make a nice thumbnail that we can have the music and all that stuff. But we're still working out a few of the bugs in the machine here with the streaming software. But thank you guys for checking us out. And I'm excited to be talking to Dale. We're going to be doing a weekly recap. This is going to be a new format that we're going to be trying to do every Friday as long as we can. We obviously have the babies coming up, so we'll see how that goes. I might be able to get a fill-in host for a couple months while we're kind of recovering from that. But the goal is to have this every single Friday. Weekly recap, we're going to be going through some of the bigger news of this week. We're going to recap a few tweets. We're going to, finally fantasy receipts this a little bit, where we're going to, give some people some credit. And we're also going to hold a few people accountable for some tweets that we either agree with or don't agree with, right? And again, the biggest difference is we're trying to keep this a little bit more civil and not be complete assholes. And the nice thing is this is going to be live, so we're going to be a little bit more raw. I'm not going to be censoring myself. Maybe we can actually have a truly after dark podcast here and have a good time.
Maybe a little.
Yeah. So I'm your host, Calvin Timms. My co-host here is Dale Terry, and thank you for joining us, checking us out. We're going to be trying to make this fun, but let us know down in the comments. And really quickly, this is obviously live on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the streaming platforms the next day, I am going to be uploading this to Spotify, YouTube, everything like normal. But if you want to watch this live with us every Friday night, we're going to probably, again, once we get the kinks worked out, start going live around 9:30 Friday night. So, if you guys aren't at the bars having a good time, there's no sports right now really except baseball, which doesn't really count.
There's baseball, there's golf, there's racing. There's a lot of niche sports that Calvin can't appreciate. That's okay.
These are the sleeping sports, man. That's all they are.
It is what it is.
They're sleeping
You're not
sports.
Wrong. You are not wrong, my friend.
I don't have time for naps with little kids. That's the biggest problem here.
Yeah.
So, Dale, how we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really well. It's been hotter than crap outside, and in the like the whole Midwest has been feeling it, and hopefully it stops.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that. Hopefully it stops.
It stop.
It will soon, and I can and I cannot wait for some football weather where it's nice and cool, cooler, manageable, and I don't feel like I'm going to bust every time.
I know, dude. It's gonna be
preferences. I know.
It's gonna be nice. It'll cool off here soon. We just need some rain. That's the biggest. I haven't had a mow in like 3 weeks. It's been crazy. Very, very nice. All right, so thank you guys for checking us out again. This one's going to be a fun one. Again, we just want to have some fun recapping some of the bigger news stories from this last week. And let's jump into that, starting with the fact that Brandon Ayuk, and I'm gonna present these to Dale. We have not gone over this beforehand, so he doesn't know what I'm going to be bringing up, so I can get his raw, unfiltered reaction to this stuff. But Brandon Ayuk says that San Francisco doesn't want him on IG. He's kind of stepping up the social games, I guess, you would say. He wants to get paid. Obviously, he's a good receiver, wants to make that big money. I think that the Niners should pay him, but it's kind of coming to a head. What is going to happen with these teams? Are they going to pay him? Are they going to trade Debo? I've said long ago, and I had a video here on the channel, so if you're listening here on YouTube, go check that video out as well. But I don't think Brandon Ayuk gets traded this year. I don't think they also sign him to a long-term contract. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, because next year they are paying so much money to all these guys, and Brock Purdy needs a contract soon, like very, very soon. One of the perks of being Mr. Irrelevant is you only have a 4-year contract, right? So you get paid much quicker. So Brandon Ayuk, I don't think they want to move on from him this year. I don't think they want to pay him this year. I don't think they can pay him next year unless they move on from Debo. That's the only way. So what is your take on this Ayuk situation? What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's starting to get a little bit more. I don't want to say hasty isn't the word. It's just getting a little bit more testy. I mean, I understand that Brandon Ayuk wants to get paid, but I mean, it's not like he hasn't made money over his tenure in San Francisco. So,
Yeah, first round pick,
I get,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I get it, but like he's made how much has he made? Well, it's only $12 million,
More than
roughly.
that, he was a
But
first round pick. He had to make more than 12, right?
I'm
No?
I'm on Spotrac. I'm on.
Oh
So
wow.
as of 2011, they 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 tiered the contracts so they're more
Oh
team friendly
yeah.
and stuff like that. And with him being a later first round pick,
Hmm.
it's a tiered in all it's a tiered system how they have it in
He's on the
football.
5th-year
So
contract this year, right?
yes, he is.
Which means
Yes, he
he
is.
is going to get paid a crap load this year. He's going to get what, like 18 million, somewhere in that
He's
range?
gonna get 14,
14
14
million.
million,
Okay, so that's not bad.
14 million.
Very cheap, obviously, for someone,
It's
you see these wide
yes,
receivers making
it's
35
very,
million. It's
very
crazy.
manageable for the wide receiver he is. I mean, I don't disagree that he is going to get paid. It's not going to be done by the Niners because they are going to pay. I mean, they're already paying. It's the likes of Nick Bosa.
Hmm.
They're already they're paying CMC. They're paying Debo for however long Debo is getting paid for.
I think they can get out
Forever.
from him to next year, and they can save some money, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
they're paying Trent Williams a bunch of money.
Yeah,
A
they are
bunch of
capped
money.
out on their
Yes.
superstars. They're going full, Rams mode here of we're paying our superstars and scrubs. That's kind of this whole offense, but they've been making it
Yes.
work. So my prediction would be that they are going to move on from him. That's going to be they're going to move on from Debo. I think that's going to be the guy that they're going to try and move on from. Obviously, Debo had that one massive breakout year just a couple years ago, but he's been banged up quite a bit since then. He's got a more bang or break kind of style where either he's going to pop off
It's
for,
it's more break though. I mean,
I know.
he's not he's unfortunately, like, I love Debo and I know the fantasy community loves Debo,
Hmm.
but I don't really see him as like your prototypical wide receiver. He's more of like your utility
Right,
wide receiver.
right,
You know, I mean like a very rich man's Cordell Patterson.
right.
I'll just go ahead and say. So I mean he's due 20 million this year. Well, no,
I know.
he's due 20 million in base salary. And for next year there's a cut, well, like potential out. But it'd be 24 million in cap hit. So it's gonna be interesting what they would almost have to trade Debo to really make it make sense and
Right.
not like put him in cap hell, but they're already there.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I think I don't know what team is going to take Debo. I mean, he's 28 years old.
Right.
So, I don't see what team is going to take him on this. I mean, it's still a big salary. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not like top 5 wide receiver money anymore, but still, like, it's still, up there. And I think a team would be more willing to pay, Ayuk, which I don't think the Niners are going to be able to do that, with the situation they're in. So,
Right.
I can see him going elsewhere and making making the Steelers very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Now, do you think that's going to have any impact on his fantasy value?
It's definitely important where he goes and who the quarterback is. If he just has
Right.
a schmuck throwing him the ball, that's not gonna be good. And if it all depends on what offense. If he goes to the Steelers, that's a little bit more run heavy offense. It's an Arthur Smith offense, so that's
Right.
not looking super super great. So I feel that he would take a hit there. If he would, there
Hmm.
are some situations where it could be a lot better, but I mean a little bit better than what he's already had. But I think he would take a step back regardless of where he goes because he's gonna go where the money.
Man, could you imagine if I was thinking about this earlier today, and obviously Dak Prescott hasn't gotten paid yet. We kind of talked about him a little bit earlier on,
Yeah.
and it's looking more and more likely. He has a no franchise tag clause in his contract, so they cannot tag him after this year. Even if they wanted to, they can't even do it. No trade clause, so they can't trade him. Um, so it's either pay him an extension or he walks, right? and it's looking more and more likely that Dak's going to walk after this year. I was just thinking about this earlier. How funny would it be that obviously all this talk about Daniel Jones in New York being just a gap player. Like after this year, they're going to move on from him,
Yeah.
and Dayball will be in the hot seat essentially, and it's a make or break year. Could you know how funny it would be to me if they somehow managed to sign Dak to play against the Cowboys?
Jerry Jones would be rolling
Oh my gosh.
oh my God. He would
So,
be so fury. He would bring all the fury he has
oh dude, it'd be
left to
great.
muster in
It'd
his
be so
body.
good. But imagine that the Giants trade for Brandon Ayuk or sign him or whatever next year. They
Right.
bring in Dak Prescott and Brandon Ayuk, and all of a sudden this
That would
offense
be
is
spicy.
is
That would
Dak
be
Prescott,
spicy.
Brandon Ayuk, and
Right.
Malik Neighbors. Dude, that would be fun. That would be
That
so fun.
that would definitely be very interesting.
If this ends up happening, I'm gonna call the biggest Kobe of all time. But yeah, there's definitely some spots where Brandon Ayuk can go, in my opinion, that will be good for his fantasy value. I think ultimately, though, like I said, I do think that they're going to move on from Debo. That's going to be the guy that's going to be the odd man out after this year. There's already been talk about a post June 1st trade. Obviously, we're past June. He hasn't gotten traded. But you do the same thing next year, and you have even less money for the contract on Debo if you were to move on from him. Or you trade him in the draft for a second-round pick or something like that, right? Obviously, somebody would be willing to trade for Debo Samuel next year and take his contract, right? So
yeah, it would be a much better hit on another team's cap at that point.
right,
So
right.
I mean, it's something that has been in the news a little bit. It's not really fantasy football relevant, but it is NFL relevant. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's been a lot of talk about having a salary cap
Oh yeah,
just
for the quarterbacks. It doesn't make any
for the
sense because then
quarterback.
everybody's just going to be against the cap. Like you're going to be max paying every quarterback.
Well, not necessarily. Like, like I listen to the Dan Patrick show every now
Yeah.
and and like he gave like an arbitrary number of like 60 million. So like you have
Uh-huh.
60 million to play with just for your quarterback. You know,
Yep.
it's for the quarterback room. It's for
Yes,
your
I get it. I get it. But
quarterbacks.
you're going to
Yes, it's for your quarterback. So like that's something that you'd have to work with, you know, and might be and then you'd have your own separate cap for your
right.
other, it's your
Right.
other 50 players that you have on your roster.
Right.
So,
I get that, but what I'm saying is it so if what happens with that money if you have a rookie quarterback?
well, then you just spend what you got.
Right. But why would you pay why spend 60 million if you have, look at the Patriots, right? They're not paying 60 million for their quarterback room.
Yeah.
Why would they? Like who are you going to bring in to be a backup behind Drake May?
I'm not saying that they would have to spend all that amount, but they have
right.
They like there's a cap to it.
Yeah.
So that they're able to kind of keep these
right and
quarterback contracts under control because they're.
I get it, but like I think it's also punishing the people that are trying to build with the rookies, right? Like the Brock Purdy's, right? If you had to take that money that is allocated, right? Like the Niners are doing so well. They're paying all these other players because they're paying Brock Purdy nothing. If all of a sudden you take 60 million out of their total cap and you're not paying it towards Brock Purdy, like you just can't do what they've been doing, right? You can't have all those players. So
that's very fair.
That's a big downside. Yeah. So I don't know. To me, it just seems silly of that. Just why don't you just start paying other players more and tell these quarterbacks you can't pay them? Like, here's an idea.
I don't.
Just pay other players more.
I don't. But it's the problem is that
right.
is that the quarterback position is the most influential on.
I get it, but like
success.
I get it. I understand that. But you can say here's our.
I definitely hear your argument, and
right.
I definitely agree with that. But like,
here's what you can do.
It can make it spicy.
Here's what you can do. Your 32 owners collude. Just say we will not pay a quarterback over X amount of money.
Over X amount.
You can make it an unofficial rule and just do the same thing. You know what I mean?
That's true. But the problem is that you get a rogue owner who's going to be like, "Screw you guys! I'm doing whatever I want," and then that ruins it for everyone else. And then
yeah,
it's just I don't know.
There's ways you can
interesting.
incentivize these guys.
Yes, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic.
It's an interesting conversation for sure. I just don't see it going anywhere because it doesn't make sense for like the Patriots. You're losing out. The Niners, for example, you're just losing out because you're paying these guys.
You are
a ton
just
of money.
handicapping those teams.
The rest of your team, and you're actually benefiting guys like the Kansas City Chiefs or these guys that just got paid. So for me, it's like, why? Like that's the only thing. If you have a quarterback like the Chiefs, it makes a lot of sense. I would love that. I get $60 million out of my cap that I can use for other players. But for the other teams, it's like, I don't have that guy, so no.
Right.
Right. So it's an interesting conversation, but transitioning into the next topic I want to talk about from the news, T-Law gets paid. Trevor Lawrence gets paid a ton of money. Speaking of contracts for these quarterbacks that are getting outrageous, 5-year, $275 million extension with the Jaguars, $37 million signing, $200 million guaranteed, which is a lot of guaranteed. Average of $55 million a year. He's tied for number one with Joe Burrow, I think is the other guy, right? Now, the benefits of this it was an extension, so they get to kind of cost control him a little bit there in the last couple of years where, he's cheap right now. His cap hit is only $15 million. His dead cap money is 150, which is funny. But in 2029, he has a cap hit of $79 million, which is going to be, who knows? By then, the contracts might all be like, that might be chump change by then, but we'll
That's
see.
True.
But
it probably will, because it seems like the salary cap keeps going up exponentially. It feels like every year.
We thought the same thing about Patrick Mahomes, like $50 million a year average. Like, are you guys crazy? And then now we're like, oh, he's like the 8th paid 55. Quarterback. He's just not even in top 5.
So it is nuts what these quarterbacks are getting paid. And I know I've told you this, and I will say this again and again. Trevor Lawrence is mid. He's the definition of mid. I think he has more turnovers than Daniel Jones does in the same time frame, or something ridiculous.
No, Gardner Minshew has played better than Trevor Lawrence so far, which is hilarious because he was on the Jaguars, right?
Yes. So I've been a big I don't want to say I've been against Trevor. I don't want to.
You're a hater. Just say you're a hater. Admit it.
Hey, I've been sipping the haterade since he was at Clemson. Hey, I'm drinking it full on, being concentrate.
Yep.
I'm taking it in, and I get the allure of Trevor Lawrence. I see it. I see the flowing locks. I'm mildly jealous myself.
He's a handsome man.
He is, but he's not a good quarterback.
I think he's good. I do think he's good.
I think he's like this. He's mid. He's like 16.
I get it. I get it. I just think
he's serviceable. He's serviceable. But is he worth $55 million a year? My answer is no.
No, he's not worth. He's not worth it.
And in 4 years, when quarterbacks are getting paid $75 million a year, my answer will still be no. He's not worth $55 million.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Obviously, if you're going to sign your contract to a new your quarterback to a new contract, it's got to be near the top. Otherwise, they're not going to accept it, and they're just going to hold out and try and go somewhere. Like you said, someone will pay these guys, right? Someone will be the rogue that pays them. Look at 100%. Deshaun Watson. How much did he get paid? Fully guaranteed, right? It only takes 1 out of 32 to do that. So I get it. I don't think he's worth it. I don't think he's done enough to earn it yet. But I will say I think he has shown improvement. And when you look at first year with Urban Meyer, he regressed
he regressed year 2 under.
I agree. I understand, but again, I know you and I have talked about this not on the podcast, but more offline. Right. But one of the biggest things is everyone was saying, well, Calvin Ridley is the savior. He's a wide receiver 1 3 years ago or 2 years ago when he played, right? Yeah. Because he played with Julio Jones and Julio Jones made him look really, really good. But we don't know that Calvin Ridley was the same Calvin Ridley coming to Jacksonville, right? He didn't have
Agreed.
the same motivation,
Agreed.
everything like that. Christian Kirk was banged up a lot last year. Evan Ingram was the number one guy, but you look what they did this year, and they've completely revamped that receiving room. They brought in Gabe Davis. They drafted Brian Thomas Jr. They still have Christian Kirk. They have two big body contested catch kind of guys on the outside. Still have Evan Ingram underneath. They still have Christian Kirk underneath. ETN. Hopefully Tank Bigsby can do a little bit more. So like they are giving Trevor Lawrence a very good chance. And you pair that with the fact that they had a terrible offensive line last year, like just absolutely terrible. It's just, I think he did well given the circumstances. Now, again, is he worth it?
He's
not entirely.
He's the number one pick who year 2 did make a leap and was better. He regressed big time, in my opinion. I understand some of the weapons change, but I also feel that he should have at that point had enough chemistry with Calvin Ridley, with him being in the building for
Right.
you know
But how many
2 years at that point.
No. It
Even
was
though
only
playing,
one. It was
even
only
though
one.
playing.
He wasn't allowed to
No.
practice with him.
Well, but still, he's around the team. I understand. Like I get part of that, but but still, like you building rapport with people.
Well, he wasn't allowed to
but-
because of his ban. He was not allowed to be in the NFL facility for that entire year.
But still, I'm not giving him a pass. Trevor Lawrence is a number one guy. He should be better.
I
He
agree.
is not. He is definition of
He's beautiful mid.
Ugh, it's ugly to watch on the field mid because they should be better.
I agree.
Like
I just think that some of it,
I watched some of their games. Generate, and I didn't. He looked. It looked funky.
I agree.
It looked like
there's not a lot of cohesion.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, and again,
no.
Going back to Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk missing some time and everything, like I just feel like there wasn't a ton of cohesion with the whole team. And how many drops did Calvin Ridley have of important balls? Right, too many. So I'm not making an excuse for Trevor Lawrence, but I do think that I think he's shown potential. So he should be further ahead for being the number one overall pick. I get it.
I will also say, if a player isn't playing well, you don't throw him the ball. I know he might be on the field.
I get it. But who else were they going to throw it to? That was the problem. They had nobody behind
Ingram?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they did. That's why Evan Ingram was the number one guy last year. He was insane.
Yeah, lots and lots. Yes. It was crazy for Evan Ingram. What he was like?
Oh my gosh!
It was tight end 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was insane. He had like 160 targets.
It was either 2 or 4. It was nuts. Yep. So, I hear that. I think he's going to. I do see him potentially being a little bit better, but he has some new weapons again. So what's not to say he's going to regress or have a similar season because he doesn't have the connections that he had. So who's to say that's going to be any different?
Yeah, and that's the question.
It's the same argument. So
we will find out this year, though, for sure. Yes, if he underperforms this year, we will know that it's more Trevor than it is the situation.
I am here to watch him. Well, I am here to watch Trevor Lawrence all day, every day. Can't. It brings me joy as an Ohio State fan, and what he put me through. It brings me some internal joy.
There you go. Well, transitioning to the next topic we're going to talk about here quickly. As an Ohio State fan, one of your boys has been struggling. Justin Fields has been struggling as the number 2 backup behind Russell Wilson. And this isn't great news. As someone who likes Justin Fields, this is not what I want to be hearing. And Justin Fields, everyone was kind of hopeful that he'd have a chance to outplay Russell Wilson, but honestly, I think that Russ is a little underrated for what he was able to do last year. I think people were kind of overlooking him. I think that Fields, a little bit of the fantasy community has been hyping him up, and it's not a great sign that he's already struggling in camp. What is your take on Justin Fields here?
He's building rapport with people he hasn't played with in a brand new offense.
Yeah.
I'm not super worried about it.
Okay.
I know the talent's there. I do understand that he did struggle. Chicago.
Yep.
And I get it, but like when he actually had know playmakers on the field instead of a wide receiver three and Darnell Mooney on the field,
Right, right.
he actually played pretty well. So you know, um, I'm not super worried about it. I think he's going to be okay. I feel mad. I feel he was done more dirty by the Madden video that came out of him returning kicks
Yeah.
than any of these reports.
Dude, him on,
In my opinion.
I know he doesn't want to do it, but him on the new kickoff would be fun. I do think that
It,
he would be fun
well,
on that.
yeah, it could be interesting.
So are you concerned though for fantasy? Are you still holding on him
I'm
or are you trying to
I
get out? I'm trying to get out. I've come to the decision
that's
like
fair.
for me, I at this point in time, I just want out. And
Yeah,
if Fields ever
yeah.
becomes something, then great. But let him become something for someone else where I don't even know
Hey,
if he's going to be a starter next year.
and at this point, I get that.
Yeah,
I fully understand that. So it's a problem. Is like, what are you gonna get from him?
right. Right. So I actually have a trade.
Yeah,
I have a
yeah.
trade
Have
in
at it.
one of my leagues. It's super flex, right? So this is what I offered. Well, it's kind of super flex, but it's also to the Russ owner. So I offered Fields and Keenan Allen for, ironically, the guy we were just talking about, Calvin Ridley and Kendre Miller.
Oh, okay.
How do you feel about that?
I don't hate that. So I really don't. Like you're taking some risk on some unknown with Kendra Miller, but
Mm-hmm.
but other than that, like it's
Youth, right?
solid trade. Yeah. It's youth. Yeah.
And I'm hopefully slightly upgrading. Like for me, I look at it as more of an upgrade of Keenan Allen. Like obviously Keenan Allen's 32, Calvin Ridley's 29, so it's not even like you're getting
Yeah,
massively younger there.
it's not too much of it. Yeah,
But it's a
but on the Calvin Ridley side, like you are getting like
the
he came
number
in the
one,
league.
hopefully.
He was 24 coming in.
Yeah,
Like he had the
he's
suspension
young.
year
He's a
off.
young 29.
So like he's a young body 29 compared to
Right. Dude, I gotta
really
say though,
24.
as someone who's 35, it doesn't really matter. Like,
That's true. That's true.
eventually you just start to feel older. Like you start slowing down, and you're just like,
Yeah,
huh, can't do what I used to do. All right, cool.
that's
Um,
true.
so yeah, we'll see what happens with that. It's a downgrade in my opinion from Keenan for the quarterback for Keenan to Calvin Ridley because I would rather have Caleb Williams throwing me the ball
Yeah,
than
yeah.
Will Levis. But at the same time, you get a little bit younger, potential number one versus number two. So it's something I threw out there. We'll see if it gets accepted or not. But
Yeah.
yeah, for Fields, that's what I'm basically looking at is just cashing out for whatever I
That's
can essentially. If it upgrades my team
that's
somewhere else,
very understandable.
yeah.
No,
If you could trade
yeah, no,
Fields for like Will
I fully
Levis,
get that.
I would do it personally.
Fair.
You get a starter at least, you know what I mean?
That's true. No, that is very.
Target the Russ
I get it.
owner. Or what you can do if you have Fields is definitely try and get Russ because I think Russ is going to absolutely explode this year for fantasy.
Fair enough.
All right, next two topics are kind of the same team. So we're going to talk about the Patriots, New England Patriots. First off, Ramondre Stevenson gets paid. Did not see this one coming. I know there's been all this talk about it, but I did not expect it to actually happen. 4-year, $36 million contract extension, $8 million signing bonus, $17 million guaranteed. It's very front loaded, I believe. If the contract details are not on Spotrac yet, but I think that it's going to be pretty heavily. You can cut him in 2 years. $17 million guaranteed. That's going to be gone after like 1 or 2 years. They're just going to pay him a lot right now that they can cut him if they need to. But I did not see this coming. He's 26 years old right now. The team obviously has Antonio Gibson as well. What do we think about this? Do you like this for Stevenson? Do you think this bumps up his
I
value?
I was pretty sure. I think it definitely does. I mean, it makes him I thought he was just going to be somebody you just casted aside, after this year.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised. I'm surprised they did this with everything that's going on. I thought they were going to be starting to retool a little bit, kind
Yeah.
of stuff like that. So, I'm surprised, and they paid him pretty good money. I mean, I understand that you can cut him in a couple years. Still,
Right.
like you're giving him quite a bit of money.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they
So,
gave Antonio
so,
Gibson a
so,
decent amount of money too.
well,
Just
that
looking at 3
it's
years,
very, it's
11
very
million.
interesting. So, I don't hate it. I don't hate it for Ramondre Stevenson. I think it's great for him. I think it really cements his value.
So for
You know,
fantasy though, what do you
Yep.
think his potential is? Because when I look at this running back room, for me, Ramondre is more of the grinder, right? Where
Pound.
Antonio
Yep.
Gibson is going to be more of the specialist pass catching type of guy. Um, I think that Gibson obviously was a receiver back in Memphis, I believe, coming out of college, and he has a little bit more pass protection chops, in my opinion, than Ramondre does. I do think Gibson's a little bit better at that. Where's hand? Like both of these guys have kind of shaky hands. They both fumble quite a bit. But do you think that Ramondre is going to get back to his value from just a couple years ago, where he had like 90 targets in this offense?
I don't think he's going to get anything like that.
Okay.
I don't. I can see him. He'll probably be lucky to get 50. To
Yeah.
be honest,
Yeah.
I can see that, which that's still not bad. But I don't think he's definitely not going to get. I can I can see Gibson getting quite a few.
Right.
And working with that. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be fine. I can see him being a pretty like solid running back, like a running back two, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
but not anything. I mean, well, I think that year he was running back 7 or something like that.
Yeah. He was pretty high. Pretty high.
Around that. So I don't think he's going to do that. I can see him, being like 16 and 24.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of there, kind of just getting, maybe he just falls in the end zone quite a bit this year,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So, I think it's good for, the NFL version of Ramondre Stevenson. I'm not sure, like, dynasty wise, I don't think it super changes a ton, but it makes you feel more confident in, if you're trading for him, or, trading him,
Yeah.
like getting some of that value for him.
So let me ask you this: percentage wise, what do you think the breakdown of the fantasy points is going to be between these two, Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson? Do you think 60% of the fantasy running back points is going to go to Ramondre? 70%? What would you kind of put that at?
I would say, like, I would say, like, I think 60 is a fair number.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like 60 to 65% of it. And that is the bulk, and I do see that as his role.
Yep.
I think he's definitely going to get the rushing yardage. That's not necessarily Antonio Gibson's strong suit. It's more in the pass catching, stuff. So, I can see it, potentially being a little bit lower on 60, because, he's because Gibson gets more pass catching, but I still think Ramondre is going to be relevant on that,
Yeah.
just not as much as what he was.
Yeah, I could see it being about 65% going to
Yeah.
Ramondre.
Yeah.
So, I do like that for his value. I think he's a decent buy right now. So, yeah, I like that a lot
Right.
for Ramondre Stevenson. So, if you need a running back and you're looking for someone cheap, now I would not try and sign him or trade for him this week if if you're trying to get him.
No,
Um,
don't do that to yourself.
yeah, let
Would
the
not
hype
recommend.
die down just a smidge before you
A
try and send an
smidge,
offer
yeah.
for him. But yeah, I do like I think it's good for him. So we'll see what he ultimately is
Yeah,
able to
so
do. All right, last piece of news, and I just wanted to bring this up because obviously I'm a Patriots fan, but Jalen Polk and Drake May have been doing extra reps after practice, and they've been really trying to get a good rapport with each other. Is Jalen Polk being underrated for this receiving core, and how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's not surprising that he's getting some hype with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say he's necessarily. I know a lot of people love Javon Baker,
Yes.
like, are like enamored with him and just love him. He was this combine darling, stuff like that. But Jalen Polk did have actual production and played for an actually good team.
Yes, and he was very good.
Yes, and he was very good. He was the two under
Roma
Roma
Dunze.
Dunze. Yeah, so I get it, I see it, and I can see him doing. And I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of tape of. I'm guessing he's probably going to be more in the slot.
He can play
It's
outside. He
basic.
can play outside
Yeah,
pretty well.
he can play outside, but I feel that Baker is probably more the guy, and maybe on the outside, and I think Polk is probably the guy you want out of those two.
Right. Oh, for sure. I just think that
Yeah,
he's being so underrated. He's going to the back of the second right now in rookie drafts, and he was a second round pick. He was like wide receiver number 87.
It was around
He was
that,
up there.
yeah.
There were so many first round wide receivers this year. It was like what, 7 of them? I think
He
it was
was
7.
definitely in the top 10 in the top 10 of wide receivers.
Yes, he was an
You know,
early second round pick. I just don't
I
remember
feel
what
pretty good
number.
about that.
But yeah, I do think that Jalen Polk
So
is being underrated. Second round pick. A lot of people just like Javon Baker a little bit more, so they're disregarding the value of Jalen Polk. But man, for late second round pick, it's just such a steal in your rookie draft. So wanted to bring that up. I do think that we're going to be a little surprised by how decent Jalen Polk is. Rookie quarterback, rookie receiver, both drafted, number 1 and number 2 picks by the New England Patriots. So there's going to be some good rapport there. They've gone through rookie minicamp together. They're, obviously this receiving core sucks for the New England Patriots. So, it's dog water. So he might be the most talented wide receiver that they have there, which is sad to say. Kendrick Bourne's pretty decent.
It's really not. Kendrick Bourne's okay, but he's
a one-trick pony.
Yeah, I mean, he's a wide receiver 3.
Right. So Jalen Polk, just wanted to bring it up there. Go make an offer for him. I do think he's going to be, maybe not this year, maybe in 2025 is where he'll be a lot more valuable, because I do think Drake May is going to be a little bit slow out the gates this year, but I do like him long term, and I like this offense. And I was just looking on Spotrac again at the New England Patriots, and dude, they have so much money. They currently have $44 million in cap space left for this season, and they're going to roll all of that over to next year with the amazing. They have so much money for next year that. I was looking at some of the free agents. They're going to make an absolute boatload payment to T. Higgins. They're going to sign him to I don't even know, whatever. They're going to sign him to $30 million a year just to get him in to be the number 1 for this team. Then all of a sudden, you got T. Higgins and you got Jalen Polk for Drake May. That could be a lot of fun. So something to keep in mind there. But yeah, Jalen Polk, definite value in the rookie drafts. All right. Now we're going to go on to some tweets, and we're going to fantasy receipts this just a little bit here. And we're going to, let's do an Oreo. We're going to start with one bad. Well, we'll start with the bad one. We'll go to the next one. I can't really tell if it's good or bad. It was just an interesting one that I wanted to talk about here today. And we'll finish with a good one. We're not just going to be complete haters here today, but we're going to be
try not to be.
Yeah, right. We're going to start with the Kelly and Murray show at Kelly Murray show on X, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I don't care, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever it is.
She put out a quarterback ranking, which was the funniest looking quarterback rankings I have ever seen. I just had to bring this up. It was so bad. And I'm like,
it's very bad.
Oh my gosh. So really quickly, number 1, Lamar Jackson. Number 2, Brock Purdy. Number 3, Joe Burrow. 4, Josh Allen. 5, Patrick Mahomes is number 8, guys. Tua Tagovailoa is number 7. Jordan Love is 6. This is one of the worst. Justin Herbert is 12. Let's see. Who's the other one? Anthony Richardson is at 20, behind Jameis Winston, who's at 19.
Jameis Winston, who is a backup.
Oh my gosh.
Who is a backup in Cleveland. And then they have Kyler Murray 21.
Caleb Williams is 36. Caleb Williams is 36.
I understand for the rookies.
Dude, she has
no. Phil Sim does.
No. But look at the other rookies though.
I know. Oh, I know. I know. Oh no, I know. It's
she
bad.
she has him behind
Drake May at
Drake
third.
May, Bo Nix,
Drake May at
JJ
30.
McCarthy,
Yeah. Yep.
and Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels. Oh my,
And
she has
Jacoby
him behind
Brissett
Sam Howell,
is at the
dude.
yeah. It's Sam Howell.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Which is just
So
nuts. So
yeah, the comments
I
were
don't know
not
what
very
she
nice to
was.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what she was smoking that night. It was something.
Yep.
Like I get having your takes, which is fine.
Oh, we have terrible
We
takes all
all
the
do.
time. You know, we
Yeah, we all do.
Dale has
We
them
all do.
every podcast.
Every single podcast I have bad takes, and hey, it is what it is.
Yep.
But a lot of these are just really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that she probably has Trevor Lawrence maybe a smidge high, him being mid.
You absolute hater.
That's pretty well. That's pretty well.
She has
That's pretty
Michael
well, like,
Penix Jr.
mid-tier.
at 16, by the way.
At 16. Yeah, yeah, and then Geno Smith ahead of Jalen Hurts, which I'm not a big Jalen Hurts guy, but I know Jalen Hurts is better than Geno.
Oh, for sure,
So,
for sure.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now again, guys, if you're listening to this, it'd be better to watch it. But if you're also watching this, I do apologize. We don't have the graphics yet. We're gonna have them for next week. I will have all these tweets that you guys can see them with us, but we are going to be walking through them verbally just for this one. We're in transition. This is the first live,
well, on these tweets, like I will put them down in the
there we go.
area where you can find them, stuff like that, so that you can see them as well. And if you want to see,
and you can comment on them.
Interesting. Yes. If you want to comment on them, just
be respectful.
Just check them out yourself.
Yeah, be respectful. Like I said, we're trying to fantasy receipts this, and we're gonna have more negative ones in the future. But we also don't want to be. We don't want to just dog people. Like we want to give reasonings why this one was just so egregiously bad.
Be horrible people.
Oh, dude, this one was just so bad that it was funny. So
up and down, it's pretty bad.
Mahomes at 8, dude, behind Tua.
Yeah, it is
behind
wild.
Tua. What are we doing here?
Yes.
All right, all right. Next one is going to be Scott Barrett. He does a lot of fantasy football stuff. Scott Barrett, BARRETT DFB. Level of confidence, Marvin Harrison Jr. has a better fantasy skill set than Malik Nabers. He's only at 58%. This one was worth talking about, in my opinion, because, obviously there's a perceived gap in the rookie drafts between Marv and Nabers. He says level of confidence that the Cardinals wide receiver 1 is a better fantasy role than the Giants wide receiver 1, 51%. ADP, Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver 9, Malik Nabers, wide receiver 20. I think he was pointing out that he does not understand why there's such a big discrepancy between these two guys. What is crazy to me is I don't know how he came up with these numbers, but the level of confidence that the wide receiver 1 for the Cardinals is a better role than the Giants is only 51%, which is basically a coin flip, right? Where not very confident that
Well, I feel that's a worse reflection on Kyler Murray.
That's right. Yeah. So that's what it's saying. So he's
than anything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying that he's not sure that the wide receiver 1 for the Cardinals is better for fantasy than the Giants wide receiver 1. And I think that's where it's the most interesting is you have Kyler Murray on one side, you have Daniel Jones on the other. Now, obviously the Arizona Cardinals, what they were able to do on offense last year was very good given the situation, right? First year head coach who's a defensive guy. They bring in, I forget their offensive coordinator's name off the top of my head, but the team was decent all year long, right? Then Kyler comes back and he is absolutely cooking with no Hollywood Brown really, mostly just Trey McBride, and you had Michael Wilson. Now, he also loves Michael Wilson for this upcoming season, for what it's worth, but yeah, I just found it very interesting that he's so down on the Cardinals being a better fantasy landing spot than the Giants. And I get it. The Giants are devoid of talent, but
yeah, but I will say when Kyler Murray was Kyler Murray, but like he had DeAndre Hopkins. Now we are projecting a lot out of Marvin Harrison. And I feel most of it is rightfully deserved, but I also feel that Malik Nabers is a very good talent, and I feel if they swapped, I think still feel the same about these guys, but but you have to go like I know we're just talking, but like you have to go back who's throwing them the ball. Kyler Murray is hands down a better quarterback, and
Oh, for
I'll
sure.
you know you know like I will have to find on that Kelly's list where she had Daniel Jones. I don't think she had Daniel Jones. To be frank,
You'd have to double check.
she did not have Daniel Jones on there.
There you go.
So like he wasn't even on the list. If that makes people feel better
Top
or
36,
worse,
not even there.
not even on there. So yeah, it's a very interesting sentiment how people feel about certain certain teams and their wide receiver ones
Hmm.
and their respective quarterbacks. I mean I would feel different if the quarterback was Clayton Tune for the Cardinals compared to Kyler Murray,
Right.
but that's not the case.
Right. And again, this isn't necessarily to drag Scott on here. I just thought this
No,
was
no,
such an interesting
no,
tweet that
no,
he came
no,
up
yeah,
with.
no,
So,
no, yeah, no, and I agree. I think that's a very good. That's kind of how some people in the fantasy community think is that like oh yeah, like this wide receiver room is so good, it's so good, and then they think this other one is horrid,
hmm,
and with the Cardinals being what they were last year, like there's a lot of perceptions on that and how that's going to portrayed into this year. But
right.
like I mean, both of those wide receiver rooms are immensely better because of Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. And I feel that I mean with their ADPs, which is very interesting that like wide receiver 9 is in super flex leagues that's like mid second round compared to Neighbors, which is
Right. Round three, give or take, round
yeah,
four.
three, maybe early four. So,
Hmm.
there is. I mean, honestly, like I feel that's the biggest discrepancy, or one of the bigger discrepancies.
Yep. And yeah, so on the flip side though, obviously we both believe in Marv and what he's going to be able to do with the Cardinals. The question then becomes, is Malik Neighbors underrated? And I do believe that what he's pointed out here is interesting, that I do think that, if I were to bet my house on one of these two to have a higher fancy finish, it would be Marv. I'd go
Yeah,
all in on red with Marv, right?
agreed, agreed.
But if Malik Neighbors, if you told me that he's going to finish as a top 12 guy, I wouldn't be shocked. I do think that he's going to have a pretty good, healthy target share as well. So
Yeah,
maybe the biggest discrepancy here is just how low Malik Neighbors is versus Marv. Maybe Marv is fairly valued, but Malik Neighbors is being undervalued just a little bit.
that's fair.
All right, now let's go to our last one, and this one we actually agree with. Now, this is going to be by David Goretti. I don't know how to say his last name. I apologize. David, let me know how you say it, brother, because I don't
Yeah,
know. But he had a very interesting thread that I liked a little bit here. And, David has a little bit of a hit or miss, in my opinion, with some of his fantasy takes. Some of them I think are the dumbest in the world. Some of them I think are the smartest in the world. So he's all over the spectrum for me in terms of what he puts out there on Twitter. So I thought this one was a little bit interesting, and I did like it a little bit. You can find him at Guru, Guru, Fantasy World with no O, WRLD. Guru Fantasy World with no O. Find him on Twitter, David Goretti. Goretti, I don't know. I apologize. But
it,
the thread
it,
is making the case for Zay Flowers. He goes through college production. He goes through the athleticism score. He's got the round one draft capital, which is good for a lot of these wide receivers. He had good year one production as a rookie in a low volume passing offense. Very good reception perception, very good after the catch ability, very good in contested catch situations. And then, you look at it and you're just not super thrilled by the Baltimore Ravens. So maybe we're a little bit low on Zay Flowers in fantasy right now.
yeah, and I think a lot of people are because of what the Ravens have been offensively. With them like with Lamar, in himself is he doesn't he doesn't throw for 4,500 yards.
Right.
You know, typically, I think his best year was 3,700 or
Something
So,
like that with
you know,
36
yeah,
touchdowns though.
yeah,
Massive
yeah.
touchdowns.
It was a crap ton of touchdowns. So, I understand why people are a little off of that. And with them signing Derrick Henry, these people are thinking that they're going to run the ball 1,000 times every game, and that's not
Hmm.
true because they're going to throw to Zay Flowers, they're going to throw to Mark Andrews.
Although although this year
although
with Derrick Henry, they might just run every play. You might not be able to
Well,
stop them.
I mean, at the very least, you can play action it,
Yeah,
and you
right.
can have
Right.
and you can have flowers down the field. So I don't feel with that notion of them being prototypical running team.
Hmm.
I love Zay Flowers. I
Yeah.
think he's great. I think he's going to. I think he can very well duplicate what he did last year.
Hmm.
And he's just going to learn from what mistakes he made last year, get better.
Yeah. And he's currently the wide receiver 25, and that's where it's seems
Oh,
like a little bit
oh,
of a value,
buy
man. But
buy him, please. Oh, buy him up. Buy yourself some flowers, my friend.
buy them for your lady friends. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
Um,
whatever you got to do.
no, but
Buy him up
he
left and right.
some of the notable names that are going in front of him, Xavier Worthy, I thought was a very interesting name. Like
Give me
if you,
flowers. Give
yeah,
me
if you had to,
flowers. Flowers all day.
I don't understand the infatuation with Xavier Worthy. Obviously, the NFL hasn't done anything
It's
to Rashee Rice yet. They might not do anything at all. Who knows? It's the
it's because
NFL.
he's fast, Cal.
I get
Because
it,
he's
but
fast.
and he was
It's
drafted in the
because
first.
it's because he's a Texas wide receiver.
Yeah,
Part of that.
like Tank
All part
Dell.
of
I like Tank Dell a lot. In long term, I think I'd rather have Zay Flowers because I think he's the
I
number
would
one. But
one. I agree with that. 100%.
George Pickens, I like the upside of Pickens more. I know you would pick Flowers over him. That's fine.
Flowers all day. Yep.
Higgins, I would rather have Flowers. DJ Moore, I
Yep.
think, is massively underrated. DK Metcalf, I think, is underrated. So I'd rather take both of those guys. Devonta Smith, this
I
is where
mean,
it gets interesting.
I would, yeah, I would probably have Metcalf, and I think, yeah, and I do agree with Smith. That does make it interesting because he is the two in that offense, and we are both
He might be the
down
number one now,
on
though.
that.
That's the question.
Could
He's
be.
getting paid now. It's tight. It's very tight. Michael
It's gonna
Pittman,
be interesting.
Michael Pittman's very interesting as
ADC,
well. I
ADC.
think that, I think Michael Pittman is a more prototypical wide receiver, for all the
Yep.
sizes and people like me.
Yep.
But you look at the quarterback situations, and both of them are kind of the more mobile, rushing first type of
They're
guys.
very similar.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the fact that Pittman is wide receiver 17 and Flowers is 25 is an interesting gap there. Not a massive gap. You're talking 8 slots, but it is still significant.
That's still quite a bit. Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a few people that I'd rather have Flowers over. So I do think he's a little underrated. So yeah, definitely worth potentially going to make a trade offer for. And yeah,
It
if you
is.
want a little bit more on the case for Zay Flowers, go check out this thread by Dave Garteri. Dude, I'm gonna just massacre. I gotta stop. Guru
I
Fantasy World.
hey, and I'll say this again. I will pin all these three tweets,
Yeah.
in our YouTube in the YouTube video so
Yep.
that you guys can find that. So it's a little bit easy so that you guys can check it out because with some questionable takes, there can be some insight and can be some stuff that you guys can pick up on the nuances of stuff, and that can really help you in your league.
Yep. And if you guys have any tweets that you want us to trash or highlight or break down for next week, let me know. Hit us up on Twitter. You can find me at Twitter on Twitter at X on X whatever at TDC_Calvin. You can find Dale at what is it? Dynasty _Dale, right? You can
Yes,
or
all
you can
day.
tweet him to the podcast directly at FF After Dark. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be Twitter. I don't do all the social medias. I don't do Facebook. I don't do Snapchat or Instagram or whatever is cool
I mean,
nowadays.
if you just want to comment on the video, please comment on the video because we've been getting
Yeah.
some really good comments lately.
Yeah,
Some some mostly solid comments.
some trolls, but I appreciate it.
Some hey, it is what it is, and
I love a good troll, man.
if you feel you have a very a good a good take on something or something that you just disagree with us on, just let us know.
I'm just waiting for them to just dig up all of my old tweets and just post all of them. You idiot!
Please, I hope
I know
they do.
I got some bad ones. But, yeah.
Gosh, I hope they do.
Hey, I will call myself to the mat if you guys call any of my tweets as well. So yeah, if you have any tweets that you want us to share for next week's episode, for next Friday, let us know either on Twitter or in the comments down below. If you like this type of content, this was a little bit more of a fun one, a little bit more open-ended, just kind of get to talk a little bit. We don't have a specific, theme that we're going for. And if you like the new format of the podcast, Monday solo video with me with whatever I want to talk about that day. The Wednesdays are going to be me and Dale. And then maybe next Friday we'll do a live mock draft. Maybe that's one we can do as well.
I see.
But yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you think about it. And again, apologies for not having everything kind of worked out here. We need to get a nice, cool looking thumbnail. We got to get some stuff worked out on it, but we're going to work on it and we will have it for next week. So again, we appreciate you guys checking out the video. This will be coming up as well. If you're checking this out after we are live Friday nights, we're going to start doing it around 9:30s on Fridays after dark. We're staying up late, burning the midnight oil, as it were. So let us know your thoughts. We appreciate you guys. Dale, any last thoughts here today?
Send it on home.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys. And until next time, have a good night.
And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?